like to introduce a fellow psychologist, Dean Kevin Corcoran of School of Arts and Sciences. So Kevin, please.
Well, I feel a little bit like a rock performer who has an audience that has seen my act before. Because I'm going to do a variation on what I presented to the board just a few weeks ago, but as rock musicians are wont to do, I thought I'd throw in some of the classics as well as some new tunes along the way. And as I thought about that metaphor last night, it got me a little bit troubled to think John Bean was one of my groupies. You can imagine how troubling that is, can't you? So President Hyde and I didn't plan this, but I want to start with this picture about today. This picture is about 70 years old. It happens to be my father. You can see we have the same haircut, right? My father got sort of a bad deal from the deck in life. He was born in 1924. His mother died in 1925. He was the youngest of 6. When he was 12, he went to work in a local butcher shop to help support the family because when he was 5, the stock market crashed. He quit high school in early 1942, which would have been his senior year in high school, because there was a war going on, and you see him there in uniform. I start with him because my father, even though he didn't finish high school, wasn't able to go to college, believed in the transformational power of higher education. It was never a question that his 3 sons were going to go to college. All 3 of us did. All 3 of us graduated. I said at the AUFD opening event that higher education has given me an opportunity to not only do things I never dreamed of, but things I couldn't have dreamed of. A very different life, and most of us in this room have had a much more privileged deal from the deck than my father did. But it's back to that American dream, right? The transformational power of higher education. I start with a face. I continue with 4 additional faces because it all starts with the faculty. That's what universities are built on, are high-quality faculty who care about their work and care about their students. So I start with these 4 pictures. In the upper left, you see Andrei Slavin, who is the most recently named distinguished professor at the university and the chair of the physics department. The upper right is Jackie Wiggins, and I get in trouble with Jackie if I don't show at least one picture of her during these presentations. Jackie, last spring in this very room, was the first individual to be named the Outstanding Dissertation Mentor. Lower left is Kathy Pfeiffer, who in this room just a few weeks ago gave the President's Colloquium. Lower right, Fiki Shalor, who last year in October gave the President's Colloquium. Physics, music, English, mathematics. We're big, we're broad, and we love it that way. 16 departments, more than 70 academic majors, 21 master's degree programs, 6 doctoral programs, over 300 full-time faculty, another 350 plus part-time faculty, so more than 650 faculty across those 16 departments. Looking at credit hours over a 20-year period. Since I'm the one doing the presentation, I don't need to tell you which of those lines is the college, do I? That's credit hours generated, and you can see it has been a steep growth over the last 20 years. We also provide courses that majors in the schools, in the professional schools, take. And what we've done here, some people have referred to this as the narcissistic slide. We're at the center, we're the biggest, and others are basking on our reflected glow. But you notice that what we did was we looked at the most populated or highest enrolling major in each of the schools, and one of the things that we found were those percentages. That's the percent that major will take of their courses, of their credits, that major will take from the College of Arts and Sciences. You'll notice 38% business lagging behind. I've had words with Mazzio about it. We're working on it. Rehabilitation, Michael, rehabilitation. But by the way, if I can just back up just a second, that doesn't even talk about the collaborations. We collaborate with the School of Engineering and Bioengineering, in engineering chemistry and engineering physics. We collaborate through STEP programs with our friends in education. We collaborate with our friends in business right down the hallway in actuarial science. That doesn't even take that into account when we're talking about this. What a lot of people react to is, well, all of the courses that the college teaches are service courses. Well, here's majors. And again, I needn't tell you which line is the College of Arts and Sciences, given that I'm showing this display. You'll notice that one of the things, Laura Sharpman said a few weeks back, that when they did some projections in the late 90s, they thought that the college was actually about to go into decline. You'll notice that one of the things that happened is our friends in education, through circumstances beyond the control of any one campus, saw some decline because of changes in state regulations, state policy. And just last week I was at a conference and the other Michigan deans were talking about the very same problem. But you'll notice we have this consistent growth. We've flattened out over the last year, but this consistent growth, and it's been the place in the university where we've seen the most consistent growth. So where has that growth come from? Programs like social work, which has had 100% growth in the last 5 years. Biology, which is just under 40% in the last 5 years, 36%. Chemistry, especially through environmental science, has grown its number of majors by 25%. Psychology, which was already a big major, has grown by 18%. So we are growing in a variety of areas within the college. These are the major areas that we've grown over the last 5 years. And we've also grown through new programs. So both established programs, strengthening, refining them, but also brand new programs. Criminal justice has over 350 majors. It's in year 3. So part of the challenge with some of these programs, like social work, which is an accredited program, like criminal justice, is what's our capacity? Given the resources, given the space, I know none of the other schools have a space problem, but we in the College of Arts and Sciences have a big space problem. Graphic design is over 160 majors, again, in year 3. Cinema studies has 70 to 75 majors, and it is in year 4. So new programs have been a source of growth, as have existing programs. In addition to growing enrollment and teaching all of those students from across the university, and I might say, in a certain respect, we feel like every undergraduate at our university has a second major in the college. It's called general education. So we touch, appropriately so, we touch every undergraduate in this institution, and we take that responsibility very seriously. But we are also a college of productive and grant-getting faculty. You'll notice 47% of the grant activity in the past year comes from the College of Arts and Sciences. I'm not going to go through these in great detail, but you'll notice just a sample. This is just 5 research projects, ranging from stem cells to how animals think, how different animals think differently, through an interdisciplinary approach to math modeling of HIV progression, to nanotechnology that has to do with cell phones and computers and making them smaller yet, despite what Apple did to your iPhone. And also understanding the structure of proteins in Alzheimer's disease. All of these basic science projects have a pointer in them to an applied question, an applied problem, whether it be in healthcare, whether it be in technology, or other areas. We also, I could do the entire presentation just listing the places where we are journal editors. I selected out a few just to give you a sense of the variety. From engineering, Latin American studies, to music, to computers, to basic sciences, we have faculty represented. And as you faculty in the room know, one of the things that's useful and important about being a journal editor, in addition to it's a sign of your impact on the field, it's not only that, but it helps you to influence the conversations that are going to happen in a whole variety of disciplines. I want to spend much of the rest of my time, and in the interest of us moving on to strategic planning, I want to talk about community engagement. Part of the responsibility of a university, I believe, is to share our talent, to use our talent in service to the region, to take seriously the responsibility of stewardship of a region. And I want to give you, again, only some examples of what we're doing within the college. We're doing things in the arts. We're doing things in public presentations where we invite people onto campus or we go out into the community to present, certainly outreach and research. And I'm going to finish that talking about Pontiac. The first of these, Arts at OU, through music, theater, and dance, through visual arts, we are doing a whole variety of things that engage our community, hundreds of performances a year. This is a performance that happened 2 days ago. And I'm no fool, I put my provost and my president on a single slide, and again, Jackie Wiggins. The fellow on the left of the stage, his name is Romero, and he accompanied our provost in a performance this past Sunday. Wonderful performance, over 400 people in Varner Recital Hall on a Sunday afternoon. A month ago, we had over 400 people in Varner Recital Hall for the Juilliard Quartet on a beautiful Sunday afternoon. We are bringing people to our campus so they, A, get to know Oakland and start to engage with us and understand the talent that we have on our campus. Once a month, our history department holds a lecture series called History Comes Alive. I invite you next Wednesday evening down in the Gold Rooms, talk on the Crusades. Everything you always wanted to know about the Crusades, but were afraid to ask. Once a month, we have 100 to 150 people regularly attend. History Comes Alive. Our folks in criminal justice are doing evaluations of Veterans Court, again, appropriate on this Veterans Day. Veterans Court is an alternative sentencing model that many counties use. There's one in Oakland County, a Veterans Court. There's one in Macomb County. And it is for our Iraq and Afghanistan veterans, especially who have been involved in some sort of nonviolent crime, to have alternative sentencing, mental health counseling, essentially social work services, to help them find jobs, to help them stay out of trouble, to help them make better decisions, to help them overcome the trauma they've incurred on our behalf. In Pontiac, a week ago Saturday, the 1st of November, we had an event in Pontiac signaling, it went across multiple disciplines and multiple schools in the college. The focus there was to figure out how we could use our talent and we could use their needs and their resources to work together to help them address their needs and to help us educate our students. So it is a working with, it isn't a working on. It's a working with, it's not a working for or to. We had over 100 people gathered in this church gymnasium to discuss how could we work together. You'll notice on the bottom, and I apologize for it being difficult to look to see, at the podium is a guy named Tom Kimball, who's the president of Michigan AARP. How many members? Oh, come on, there's more members than that out there. They don't admit to being members, but they get the discounts, right? Tom helped to sponsor that. Right next to Tom is the mayor of Pontiac, and then you see me, Phil Snyder, Bob Maxfield, and Pastor Jones, who was our host that day in Pontiac. We very purposely picked a church for the first meeting. It's the heart of a lot of the neighborhoods and the community more generally. we set up a small grant program within the college to help with student success, and I have a couple of examples here. Setting up a website for information about resources for people who have been victims of violence. There is an archaeology dig up at Stony Creek that happened last summer with our support. The one I want to talk to you about is the one on the right, the Women and Gender Studies Alumni and Student Mixer, because quite frankly, if we're really being honest with one another, Women and Gender Studies is one of those majors that people say, what? Well, it's an interesting thing to study and maybe a minor. Women and Gender Studies had this mixer at Meadowbrook Hall with some funding from the college. They brought back their alums who talked to our current students about how valuable their education had been and what aspects of their education had made a difference in their professional lives. They helped the students to network with our alums. Sue held her up. And our students came away with a better understanding of how to shape their education and what things that they may not recognize are valuable now are in fact and will in fact be valuable when they complete their degrees. So why, one of the things as I said, I just came back from a Arts and Sciences Dean meeting, and one of the things that gets discussed at every one of these meetings is how do we help people understand? And you look at these kinds of skills that come from a liberal arts, and liberal arts, for those of you who don't know, goes back to the Greeks. Liberal arts was the kind of education that free men, and then it was just men, free men got. The slaves got trained in a trade. Liberal arts education does not mean a certain discipline. It's at the core of an Oakland education. Liberal arts, liberating, being able to think for yourself, being able to communicate with others in ways that they understand, being able to work in groups. And I think of that last bullet point as the most important. A tolerance for ambiguity. I hate to break it to you, the world is a messy place. Easy solutions are often not the best solutions. And so we equip students, graduates, people, with skills that allow them to navigate that messy world and be able to find their way. So let me conclude. This is an oldie but goodie for those of you who saw the board presentation. Let me conclude by talking about some of our alums, because I love talking about these folks. So on the left is a guy named Bob Gebbe. Bob was a finance executive for ExxonMobil. He went on to be the chief operating officer for the Guggenheim Museum, where he helped to select a site in Bilbao, Spain, where their museum, famous Frank Gehry piece. He then moved on to be the CEO of the United States Tennis Association, where he ran the US Open Tennis Tournament in Flushing Meadows. He stayed there until late 2001 when his wife said, "We got to get out of New York." He moved to Kentucky. That's out of New York. I'll guarantee I've been there. It's out of New York. And what Bob does right now, he's done a handful of things, but one of the things he's done recently is he was part of a K-12 educational effort to provide computer-based learning in Spanish to Latin American K-12 students. He was at his board meeting in Jerusalem. Of course, that's where you would have the board meeting, right? And was approached by a group who said, "We'd like you to see this archaeological dig that we're working on." The archaeological dig that they were working on was the discovery of the city of Magdala. Those of you who think back to your New Testament, Mary Magdalene was from Magdala, and this city was being discovered. So the Catholic Church solicited Bob to help them raise money to kind of resurrect, no pun intended, this city. He was negotiating with one of the Pope's number 2 people, and he said, "You know, in this business, I'm sort of a prostitute." And the guy said, "What did you say?" He said, I'm sort of a prostitute. And the priest said to him, "Oh, I thought you said you were a Protestant." Second person on our list, Jennifer Valapi. Jennifer is, by the way, Bob's degree was in mathematics. Jennifer Volappi. Jennifer started an organization called Women of Tomorrow after she had been, for about 10 years, the most successful 11 p.m. anchor on the local news in Miami, Florida. Women of Tomorrow, since 1997, has given away over $4 million in scholarships. Those of you who were at the alumni banquet earlier this year will remember that Oakland has partnered with Women of Tomorrow. We're giving one of their alums a scholarship to Oakland University, so there will be a Women of Tomorrow grad here next fall. These are the young women in most desperate need. That is how they define them when they approach schools to ask them to join with Women of Tomorrow. On average, they have a 50% high school graduation rate if they're not in this program. The high school graduation rate that they've discovered is over 90%. Jennifer says that she came up with this idea in a course here at Oakland University called Psychology of Women. She was a psychology major who went on to be a broadcast journalist, Emmy Award winning, and now starting this organization. Finally, on the right, John Stahl. John is the lead editor for all automotive coverage for the Wall Street Journal. In fact, I just saw John a couple of weeks ago where he was running after Mary Barra, and I'm sure after the latest news about GM, he's running after Mary Barra again. He had been the Nordic editor for the Wall Street Journal up until earlier this year. John was a history major who discovered journalism later on in his career and took a journalism minor. Last slide, I promise. Whoop. These two people, it's the gratuitous slide. Monica Emerson. Many of you will know Monica. Monica was the first chief diversity officer in the Department of the Navy. Again, we're back on Veterans Day. Was chief diversity officer at Chrysler, was a board member here at Oakland, and was a graduate of Oakland University, class of '71. Sorry, Monica, for revealing that. In French. And you all know the person to the right, Betty Youngblood. You all know she's an alum of Oakland. What you may not know is her major was South Asia Area Studies. Not State Department, not Foreign Service, university president. So thanks to you so much for the time. Thanks, President Hine, for allowing me the time, and hope you know a little bit more about the College of Arts and Sciences.